Welcome to my messy studio, everyone. My name is Mark, and I'm an artist and an art professor. And in this video, I'd like to share a short excerpt from my online workshop called Sketching People in Pen and Watercolor, which I'll be reprising this weekend, Sunday, January 26th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Do you dream of sitting at a cafe with a little sketchbook, drawing the people around you, but don't know how to go about it? Well, this information-packed 3-hour Zoom class covers much of what you need to know to get started. The class covers such topics as gesture and proportion, drawing clothing, inking, mixing skin tones, and working in different time frames. All demonstrations are done in real time and are accompanied by the original reference images. Please enjoy this excerpt from my class and visit my website, the link to which I'll leave below to sign up. Thanks for watching, and see you back in my messy studio very soon. Bye-bye. Again, the proportions I've drawn don't exactly represent what's up there. When I'm teaching figure drawing, this is something that I harass my students constantly over. Your proportions have to be exactly right, they need to measure everything. Often the initial stage starts with measuring head sizes. So seeing how many times the head fits into the entire body, working out where the middle point is. But when you're drawing fast and the model is moving, and not expected to stand there, so long as you stick with those initial proportions that I set down on the chart, you're going to be perfectly fine. They're going to run very, very close to the proportions. Now, as you get better, however, you can start making adjustments to those proportions, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Right? So if you notice somebody has a larger head size, or somebody has shorter legs, or really long arms, and that's something you want to indicate in your drawing, you can start playing with the proportions and exaggerating, sometimes lengthening, right? However, it's always a good idea to practice the average proportions first to get a hang of them so that you're able to draw them from memory. And this way, when you're looking at a model, you can look at them and say, what is different? Okay, so in this case, how does the model deviate from the proportions that I remember? Okay, the legs are longer than foreheads altogether, right? The head size is larger, the rib cage is wider. Now, this fold does a good job here, right? So here's the point of tension, that's a fold here. It goes around, it's curving around the form, it's suggesting the volume underneath. It's again one of many ways that artists, when they draw, reinforce the sense of volume of what they're drawing, improve, clarify what they're drawing. Our objective is not to be a human copying machine. In fact, copying things exactly is going to result in an inferior drawing, a drawing that's worse. Be selective about which folds you choose. Choose only the major folds. Make sure that those folds run from point of tension out. And don't draw every single fold. You don't need it. This jacket's coming out a little bit here. Okay, so we have a point of tension here. And we have folds radiating out this way. This photo, unfortunately, is a little bit bleached out. Curve. Curve, right? Don't draw straight folds on a round form. I think the first lesson is that I think this applies to portraiture as well, but also when sketching people. To do it well requires a little bit of exaggeration, and actually even, I would say, a little bit of caricature. This doesn't mean that you're making fun of people, but you're exaggerating what it is about them that you find interesting. And that could be anything. That could be their kind of odd proportions. So there's somebody with a large head or a small head, somebody with glasses that are tilted all the way to the tips of their nose, or wearing glasses that are too large, or a hat that's a little bit too big. Again, it's part of it is having a sense of humor, right? Being a little bit of a misanthrope or a cynic. But I think part of it is that that's usually what we find interesting about people. So one thing that's good about Rembrandt's drawings and all of the examples I showed you is that they're very good at defining what's interesting about the person they're looking at. That's number one. Number two, in all cases, they're very generous in the detail they provide, Though that detail tends to be focused in a few areas, it's not everywhere. Right. So in this case, Rembrandt is very generous about the detail on the woman's face and the hand gesture. Right. When it comes to the clothing, right, he's being much, much sketchier. So I guess the key is sort of focus in, identify what's interesting about the person, and exaggerate it. Number one, and then be selective, be generous with your detail, but also be selective about where you place it. Storytelling is more important. The hands, the face, right? Um, Again, I can't cover everything in this workshop. Covers lots of different skills. But generally speaking, when you hatch, you want to make sure your hatch marks are finer than the contour lines, right? Otherwise, they're going to feel like texture. So focus your hatching in areas where you want people to look most. Don't do it everywhere. And because we're combining this with watercolor, keep it relatively simple. You don't want your hatch marks to get too busy. Basically, you don't want them to compete with the watercolor when it comes to value. I don't need to mix a different color for all of it. Right? So a good shadow color would be ultramarine blue, so a nice transparent blue, and burnt sienna, like this. That's a good indoor shadow. Indoor shadows tend to be grayer. If you're dealing with outdoor light, where we have a lot of blue sunlight, the shadow color might have more blue in it, might have a little bit more vibrancy to it. Right? So kind of indoor shadow will look like this. It'll be gray. Like so. Outdoor shadow might look like this. It might be cobalt blue, which has a little more vibrancy to it. That's more of an outdoor shadow. We can take this character and bring him outside if we want. But let's stay with an indoor shadow. So that's going to be a mix of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Again, the fact is, I don't need to mix up a separate shadow color for each one of these objects. You can apply these shadows transparently. And for a quick sketch, it's going to be enough. Keep the shadow color light enough so that, again, you don't obscure your line work. That's probably a little bit too dark. Just dilute it a little bit. And once again, for your shadows, think about area of focus. So area of focus is here. Maybe the shadows here could go a little bit darker to pull attention towards those areas. Again, don't go too dark, but probably the shadow here can go a little bit darker. The shadow here can go a little bit darker, again, to draw attention to the face, the hands. Can also have a little bit of a darker shadow.